Hi, Peter Charles here, Hooked for Life Fly Fishing, and today we're going to tie the Stimulator. Now that's a more involved dry fly than the others we've been tying in this series. So I figured it'd be time to move on to something that has a few more elements and a bit more complexity. So let's get looking at what we need to put into a Stimulator, or a stimmy as we like to call them. The hook is going to be this extra long size 8. You want a 3 extra long hook for this fly. Anywhere from a 6 to a 12 will be fine. You could go smaller if you're a masochist, but you know, 8s are good. Our thread is this nice Veevus rich red. Our tail and our wing is elk hair. The body is yellow wool. Now, in this particular pattern book, the Fly Tying Bible, they ask for a yellow Antron. I've seen the fly done with yellow dubbing as well. So it's your choice. Wool works fine, and you notice I've put it in a bobbin. It makes it easier to manage. The body hackle is going to be brown, and the collar is going to be Grizzly. So let's get started. Now you notice where I'm starting my thread. I'm leaving the front of the hook bare for now. One of the problems with this fly is you don't want to get too much material in the head too early in the game. It makes finishing the fly off tricky. Okay, now we're going to take a clump of our elk hair and a small clump. I'm going to stack it, and I'm going to try it on there, and if I don't like the size of it, I'm going to come in and take a few more off. You don't want this too bulky. There we go. That's about right. Now, you pull up, and you see how that flares? Elk hair is very hollow. So the first few wraps are going to be tight, and then we're going to have some looser wraps. Now stay loose, coming back. Now you can get onto the tight stuff, and you can see you've kept the tail together. Now, with this stuff, what I'm going to do is put some broad wraps, and then bring my thread back, and I'm going to trim this off. And bring it almost all the way back. Now we're going to tie in our brown hackle, and I've prepped the feather. Now, one of the things you get into when you're tying flies like this, where you've got 2 hackles, you have to be careful about the amount of hackle you put on. You get used to how much you need to make the palm ring work. So you probably won't hit it right with your first feather, but by the second or third, you'll have your proportions right. And so you'll notice that I've trimmed a lot of this off already. And the other thing you notice with this is the barb length is, you know, just about the gape of the hook. A little bit more, a little bit less. But around the gape of the hook, you don't want more for this particular palm ring. Now I'm just going to take the tip, I'm going to strip that back. I'm going to trim that off. Now we put in our yellow yarn. Move your hackle out of the way. I seem to be leaving a lot of space there, but you'd be surprised how quickly you'll use it up. Okay, now when we begin our yellow, bring it right to the back, and then come forward. Back off the tension when you come off that bump. Don't advance it too far. Come back. There we go. Tie it off. Okay, just start in at the back. Give it a few wiggles. There we go. Just want to work on that bare quill. If it moves forward, you pull it back a little bit. Bring your thread a little bit closer. and it won't move as much. Now you're trying to worry it off. You want to try and break these off if you can. If it's too thick, well, just come in and cut it. If you get any strays, just trim them off. Now let's wind all that down. Now we're going to do our elk hair wing. So we're going to use a bit bigger clump than we did for the tail. Now you cut a bit out. Now there's lots of short stuff and there's underfur in here. So you want to get rid of the, grab the hair by the tip and stroke all that other stuff out. Get rid of the short hairs. Now what I like to do is, before I stack it, I'll size it to make sure I've got the size of clump I want. Still a little thick, so I'm going to take a few out. There we go. You're going to put it just past the gape of the hook. Bring your thread to the back. Then just pull up gently. And then as you come forward, now you can tighten up. What I'd like to do is come back with some gentle wraps and then come forward again. Now what we'll do is we'll clean up all this stuff. Now I'll pull that wing together, wrap tight. To bind it down, and then as I come back to the back end, very soft wraps while I'm holding it. Now come forward. Now your wing is in position. I've got one stray there. If you've got a stray like this, come in with a pair of tweezers, just like your wife plucking her eyebrows. Bingo, gone. So there we go. We have a wing that's nice and neat, and it's brought together. It's not flaring all over the place. And you know, you can even bring it in a little bit more if you wanted to. Just, you know, just a few really soft wraps at the back. And then don't tighten up while you're at the back. When you want to start tightening up, bring your thread forward. Okay, now at this point we're going to tie in our grizzly, and I'll show you how I've prepped the feather. I have stripped off the quill at the back. You can see the bare quill, and I've trimmed off some of the barbs at the front with a pair of scissors, and the whole thing is relatively short. There's not a lot here, and there's a reason for that. When we tie this thing in, when we start wrapping it, we're not putting on very many turns. So we don't want a lot of quill here. There we go. Now you can see this is going to get in the way when you do your yellow thread wool, which is to be expected. So what I do, you can see where I position my thread at the bottom of that red, and this is where I'm going to tie in my yellow. Sometimes you need to be pushing the grizzly out of the way at the same time you're tying in your yellow. Let's see if I can stroke some of that back. There we go. And sometimes you can orient it a little bit. Get it leaning back, that's better. Now I'll stroke everything back. Pinch loop it. Now I'll just stroke that back a little bit more, and I will start wrapping my yellow. And try to keep from trapping grizzly underneath it as you're wrapping. You'll notice my grizzly is, I forgot to mention this, my grizzly is about twice the gape or even more. It's fat. Now when you're getting back to the back of the head where the wing is, make sure you don't crank down on it because you'll flare your wing with your wool. Now advance your wool back. You can see I'm still leaving a little bit of red there. Now for the grizzly. Okay, when you start, you're going to put a wrap at the back, but again, don't forget, you're not putting a tight wrap because that will screw up the wing. Come forward on the yellow. Keep advancing on the yellow. Push your barbs back. Now, if you're lucky, the quill will break off. Of course it didn't. So we just come in here with the scissors. Use a half-hitch tool to push some of those barbs back. Okay, now I'm going to finish off the head. I'll move those barbs out of the way. I've got a bit of a lump where that quill was, but we'll hide that. There we go, ready for whip finishing. Get out of there. Of course, there's always one that wants to be a nuisance. There we go. There's our stimulator, ready for a little head cement. There we go, the stimulator. It's quite a good pattern for stoneflies, large caddis. If you do this in a smaller size, it'll be good for October caddis, for example. You could do this with the orange if you wanted to. I've seen stimulators done with orange as well as yellow. So you can use it for a variety of species. It's a good terrestrial imitation. In, you know, when August comes along, you get the high winds and you've got the big bugs like grasshoppers being pushed into the water. I think this would do a semi-reasonable job of imitating a grasshopper. So I think really you can, you know, put this in basically a variety of different situations and it'll catch fish. So give it a try, the stimulator. Cheers.